Hello, 4th grade. This is Miss Ball, Mrs. Boswell's student teacher, and today we're going to be doing Module 5, Lesson 3. It's called Decomposing Fractions Using Multiplication. So on my book, it'll be pages 23 and 24. And this is Module 5, Lesson 3, Decomposing fractions using multiplication. Okay, so Module 5, Lesson 3. It says, I can use a tape diagram and identify the whole denominator in the parts numerator. So if you remember, we learned that the denominator is in the bottom of a fraction and it has the whole parts. It's the total amount. And the numerator says how many parts are in that. So you might not recognize this word decompose. So decompose means to break a fraction into smaller fractions or parts. So we're going to be breaking down fractions like we did yesterday, but we're just using multiplication this time. So this says, using this tape diagram, how can we express this as a sum of unit fractions? Can we write it in equivalent multiplication sentence? So we're going to look at this tape diagram. And we see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. 3 of these boxes are shaded. So that means that this tape diagram is showing 3/4 shaded. And to write that in addition, we would just say 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. Because there are 1, 2, 3 parts. And to write this in multiplication, we would think about this 3/4 and we would think, how can I represent this in a multiplication statement? Well, you can see that there's 3 parts shaded, and each box is 1/4. So you could do 3 times 1/4. And I like to imagine the 3 with a 1 underneath it, so that 3/1 times 1/4, that just equals 3/4, which is what this tape diagram is showing. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. It says, using this tape diagram, how can we express this as a sum of unit fractions? Can we write an equivalent multiplication sentence? So you might see this bracket with a little 1 underneath. And yesterday we learned that this is just saying it's one whole. So we're going to want to shade all these boxes with that the bracket goes to. So there are 5 boxes. So let's go ahead and shade these 5. And since it's 5 boxes and it's showing the whole, remember that's the denominator. So 5 would be our denominator. And then, if you remember, the parts are the numerator. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts. So the 7 would actually go on top of this one. And as a reminder, the 5 is on the bottom because of the bracket showing that there are 5 holes, but there are 7 total boxes in this tape diagram. And we can represent 7/5 by saying 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. See, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I need 2 more, plus 1/5 plus 1/5. And again, these are 1/5 because we have 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5. Does that make sense? So we have a total of 7/5. Now, how can we represent this using multiplication? Well, we're going to look at the total again. So this is 7/5. So how can we represent 7/5 using multiplication? Well, we can do 7 times 1/5. And if you want to, you can draw that imaginary 1 underneath the 7 to help show that. And then 7 times 1/5 equals 7/5. Okay, so we're going to look at another example. And it says, using this tape diagram, how can we express this as a sum of unit fractions? Can we write an equivalent multiplication sentence? So in this problem, it's showing that there is a 1 whole. This bracket is 1 whole. But if you notice, there are 7 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 of them are shaded, 1, 2, 3. So we would write this as 3 because 3 is showing the parts, so it would be the numerator. And then 7 would be the denominator because that is showing the whole. 3/7. And we would just write 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7. Because there are 1, 2, 3 boxes, and each of these boxes is out of 7. And then we would write this in multiplication by saying 3 times 1/7 equals 3/7. And again, you can draw the imaginary 1 underneath it if you would like. And just to remind you guys, it's 3/7 because 3 of these boxes are shaded, and each of these boxes represent a 7 of the whole. Okay, so next it says, draw a tape diagram and record the fractions decomposition as a multiplication sentence. So this is similar to what we just did. We're just gonna draw it out on our own and draw the whole and then write it as a multiplication sentence. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw my tape diagram. You can make yours a little bit prettier than mine if you want to. So we can see that 5 is in the denominator. So how many boxes would we put? We would put 5 boxes. So you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 3 is in the numerator. So remember, that would represent the parts shaded because it is the parts of the whole. So we would shade 1, 2, and 3. And remember, every box is 1/5. So we have 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. And then if we wanted to write this using multiplication, you could do 3 times 1/5. And that equals 3/5, because you can see that 3 boxes are shaded, and that would be times 1/5. Now, I just want to make sure that 3 times 1/5, that would be the same as writing 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. Okay, so that is all for this lesson. Thank you for listening.